I'm Michael Knowles, here to tell you that Rules for Retrogrades, the book and the show, are out now, and you absolutely need to check it out before the thought police confiscate all of it and lock you away.
Rules for Retrogrades out today. Counter disruption. We're disrupting the plans of the radicals. Everyone pick up a copy if you don't already have one. And if you do have one, please leave a review in all the relevant places so that we get it into the hands of all the people that need it. Rules for Retrogrades. Rise.
What's up, retrogrades and parish orphans out there? Coronavirus lockdowns, shut-ins, paranoid schizophrenics. Tim Gordon here, podcasting live from CHOC Hospital, Children's Hospital of Orange County. My buddy Jason Jones started a movement, I think an important movement, called record or video your hospital stay. And you know what that turned up was a bunch of empty hospitals not working at full capacity. And you know, guys, it's crazy because entire floors of CHOC have been shut down. This is wild. This is wild. I'm here in my daughter Abigail's room. You know, if you could see out the window here, we got Angel Stadium, and floors beneath us are shut down entirely. Now, it's crazy because I don't want to denigrate the nursing staff. They've been amazing, best nurses we've ever had, and everyone here has been dynamite. But what is going on? What is going on out there? What is going on in here? It's wild. I feel like a split, broken household, like we talked about a month ago with Layla Miller, a month and a half ago, whatever that was. It feels like a split family because we're having to pass off the kids every day. You know, I'm watching the 5 kids for the first part of the day, and then I trade off with Steph, and we're staying at an RV park a mile away. That's convenient enough, but the pass-off is completely inconvenient. Everyone's discombobulated, and the whole thing's wild. You know, just so that Steph can see Abby some every day and I can see her some every day, we feel like a split household for the last week. It's wild. So our reality is sideways, as they say. And this is how split households must feel all the time, but that's self-imposed. This is imposed by the perverse globalist world government mandate of people pretending that you can't go about business as usual. Tomorrow's Easter. This is, of course, Easter Eve from the hospital, bedside my recovering daughter. And it's the strangest Easter Eve I've ever been a part of, microscopically and macroscopically. I wanted to share some more hospital side notions on suffering with you, microscopically and macroscopically. But what is going on out there? It's who's to say? It's wild. I certainly can't tell you the whole tale of the tape. I did a podcast a couple weeks back, 3 weeks back. Everything is so weird right now. We're so frazzled. And it was with Mr. Frank Norris, and he gave you sort of the tale of the tape as predicted by QAnon. Some of that stuff happened, but some of it might not seem to be happening. So no one has the full grip of this thing. Our reach has outlasted our grasp, as they say. No one's got a full grasp on the thing, and I'm really curious what's going on. It's really weird to be in a hospital. Lots of my friends and family have said it's got to be crazy. It's not. It's absolutely dead quiet, which is kind of peaceful. Whichever parent, me or Steph, is actually currently in the hospital is the one that's able to catch up on a little bit of rest. And besides cuddling Abby, who's right over there, you can see her bed right over there. Just a little bit of relaxation because the other one's doing time with the kids, and it's mainly been we've been trading off trying to figure out what permutation works best. What is going on out there? My friend, quite frankly, did a great podcast a day or 2 days ago about what's going on. You know, the Gates Foundation is proposing lots of virus responsiveness, and it seems to be that they don't want to adjust to the fact that some of these cats in the media and the global press that have been all over this thing have been reporting on it from basically January of 2020 onward. They don't want to let go of the fact that the numbers of deaths are way lower than originally expected, and they want to keep us locked down for 18 months. So you're going to see after Easter time, I hope, this isn't really what I wanted to talk to you about today, by the way, but you're going to see after Easter time, I think a lot of people hopefully forcibly coming back to work. That's what it's going to require. Go back to work. Well, more than that, we need to go back to church. But I mean, the economy cannot sustain this. People need to go back to work. I hope that's it. It's true, like Mr. Jason Jones, my friend, started this movement of fill your hospital. Whole floors are shut down here. I'm on the 6th floor of CHOC, and it's wild. It's dead quiet out there. The nurses are all excellent. They're doing a completely dialed in focused job on Abby because they're good, but also partly because they have the beds to spare and the time to spare and the labor to spare. So she's been getting like double nurses some of these days. What is going on, and why are more people not scratching their heads or getting mad? We have essentially state enforced unemployment at this point, and after tomorrow, Pascua, Holy Easter, holiest day of the year, we need to go back to church. We need to go back to work. We need to get out again, take off the masks, and get going. People are looking at me funny here in LA and Orange County because we're not all wearing the masks, and we don't seem completely paranoid about it. I guess in Bakersfield, where we're from, people just aren't as paranoid. But it's the parents' hospital badge. I tell you, people, this is the strangest thing that I think anyone's ever gone through globally. I mean, they've achieved globalism, those who want to, at least in the media, if not the, academia, entertainment, political press, and the bureaucrats who are ordering lockdowns. They've at least achieved globalism in this one sense. And then I'm going to change tack because I want to do a whole follow-up to my theology of suffering in the hospitals thing I did in January when we were in the hospital. Everyone's talking about the exact same thing, or they were, right? Now it's getting old. Now that everyone's kind of like, coronavirus has peaked, let's be done with it, let's move on, and people go back to work and start up your small businesses again if you can. They won't. So that is globalism. Everyone is talking about the same thing all day, every day. You're getting updates on your iPhones with coronavirus outbreak update is what it's saying. They seem genuinely disappointed that this thing was nipped in the bud. We need to take the power back. This is wild. This is wild. The economy is in a real tough spot. That's an understatement. So Children's Hospital, I'm here bedside on the oddest Easter Eve of my life. Probably of your lives too, but I've had this whole, that's the macroscopic situation. Personally, microscopically, we've had this largest brain surgery Abby's ever been through. She's been through a few. It's going well. Recovery's excellent. Thank you all for your prayers. That's a heartfelt thanks. I know my eyes look around as I do these things lots, but I want to look right at all of you. I from the bottom of my heart, and from Steph's, and from my brother Dave and his family, thank you all for the prayers. That's what sustained us. That's what sustained us. So and please continue the prayers. I mean, for another at least week or two, because we have a mini surgery coming up on Easter Monday. And then maybe we can get out of here by late Easter, in the Easter octave, sometime that week, Thursday, Friday. So it's strange, and I'm here all alone, like I said, like a broken household, except we love each other. Just me and Steph give a hug and a kiss and transfer the kids, and barely been around each other for these last few days. So it's just an odd time. And what's going on out there? You know, I live in Bakersfield, 100 miles north of Los Angeles. Traveling through Los Angeles or even Orange County, which is sort of a suburb, it's weird. People are reacting weirdly. They're not putting two and two together. And there seems to be some sort of diabolic deception at work, some sort of diabolic disorientation, to borrow the Marian language from apparitions. But I don't know. I'm not one of these guys that's always 100% sure everything is supernatural. This seems like a damn good bet that there's a supernatural component to this. Lots of darkness around. Again, my friend, quite frankly, brother from another mother in Manhattan, you know, a New Yorker, just who's raised Catholic, is saying, hey, this is, I think people of goodwill, people of good faith, and people with a keen mind are all putting it together. This probably 4 out of 5 chance is some sort of natural and supernatural collusion, the powers and the principalities. What I've been thinking a lot about, that it's not my wheelhouse. I'm going to be coming to you guys with some more important videos next week. I'm actually going on the Alex Jones show, so that should be number 1. I have some real developments. Jason Jones will be going on his podcast. Dave and I will have Father Frank Pavone on, Priest for Life, and we're going to be going on Church Militant show next week too. I didn't want to announce the other thing, but I have a major development that coronavirus offset with History Channel, potentially. But I can't fully announce it because coronavirus, like the F4 tornado that has torn everything apart, except all the power of coronavirus is, power perceived, power achieved. It's not a real tornado. But so the last time I was here at CHOC in January, I did a video that people seem to get a lot out of, the theology of suffering, and I did a whole Dostoevskian thing, and I went into the meaning of suffering. It was probably better titled "The Meaning of Suffering." I'm not a theologian. I always correct my critics who say that I'm a theology teacher. I'm no slouch in theology. I'm a Thomist, Aristo-Thomist philosopher, and I have an ecclesial degree in philosophy, meaning it's as much theology as philosophy. But my long training's in constitutional jurisprudence. I'm going to be probably writing a new book on originalism from a Catholic perspective. I've got a couple other books in the works. Obviously I'm one of the sharp critics in the young Catholic right of modernism, post-conciliar life in the church. I'm a traditionalist, and I'm a traditionalist from an Aristo-Thomist philosophical perspective. But one thing that I think is worth dissecting, since I've already done half a theology of suffering video, is that one of the open good debates about the theology leading to Vatican II, a lot of it was a pig in a poke, a kind of trick, subterfuge to change the mass, change elements of the faith, codified heteropraxy, I called it in one of my solo vids before. And that was most of it. I think it's fair to say that that's the drive behind the bad guys at the council. I'm going to give you, as I have in past, I've insinuated it, a way to believe in the correct hermeneutic of continuity as we go forward. That's an important thing. Well, how do I hold these traditionalist views with the hermeneutic of continuity? You're going to hear that going forward. But so that's just take all that and put it to the side. So you guys one of the interesting debates leading to the council, I don't know how active the debates were at the council itself, was the debate about whether or not, what is dogmatic theology? It's the nexus of nature and grace. This is not my wheelhouse, but I do know it because I know Thomas. This is not an area I would dissertate on if I were back in a PhD program. Does mankind have only a natural telos, goal or end, or a natural and a supernatural telos, goal or end? There's lots to quibble about with these Vatican II guys, and I do, but that's one that seems like an open question because there are two strong sides on it. Some of the Vatican II theology claimed, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, but they claimed that really they wanted to get back to Aquinas. I think I'm thinking de Lubac here. Wanted to get back to Aquinas, and late scholasticism was actually Scotian and univocist and all of this stuff that led late scholasticism down the wrong path. And so there's a fundamental disagreement as to whether or not what the Thomist view even is about, does mankind have one end, one telos, one goal, or two, one supernatural goal, which is basically eudaimonia, that is the beatific vision, or are there two separate goals? And I do happen to, being natural eudaimonia, the kind that Aristotle describes, happiness from the natural virtues, and then basically supernatural happiness that comes only from not just the sacraments, but from getting fully united with God in the beatific vision. It's difficult because Thomas is so clear. He never used weaponized ambiguity. It's a little difficult to get our heads around the idea that Thomas in this one case may have been a little ambivalent, because it's a tricky question for people who take Aristotle seriously, which I do, and which Thomas does, more importantly. So, because Aristotle seems to describe eudaimonia as a thing that can be achieved in this life. And there are great dogmatic theologians, even Scott Hahn, when he lectures on this, he talks about guys like Feingold and Levering, who seem to take a middle way that would say this debate is not really that important. They came up with a kind of middle way where a middle position that would say basically not all. Let me back up a second. Aristotle's function argument is the idea that basically a wrench is a wrench. Think about a human being in a second, but for right now, a wrench is a wrench that operates perfectly. When we talk about just a common term, a wrench, we're talking about one without privation, one that does the function of a wrench. So when I assess this issue, I assess it like a philosopher, more like Aristotle. What is the proper function of a human being? That's when you get into arites, virtues, what we'll call, theological and natural virtues. What is the goal of a human being? Well, it's to become virtuous. It's to become smart in your intellect and good in your will. But there's another goal, that's more fundamental, that's more like the philosophical ground of a human being, the ontological ground, which is really you become smart so that you can become good, intellect and will. Yes, like Aristotle described naturally, but you do that so that you can get fully united with God. But the question is, in Aristotelian language, this is the difficulty. This is why I'm tempted to say both sides really sound right about whether or not humanity has just a supernatural end or a supernatural end plus a natural end. Aristotle doesn't conceive of, and neither does Thomas typically, a function that is not adequated to a capacity. Meaning, or let's talk about it this way, a desire in human beings, because now the wrench is us. We're talking about us. Do we do our jobs well? Do we have a desire for something, for an end that we can't know fully on our own, which would be reunion with God, the vision of God, right? We can, through intellect and will, become naturally quite virtuous. How virtuous is a more complex question, but there are natural virtues that your intellect and your will get you to alone. My whole thing that I've been thinking about lately, and I'm not a dogmatic theologian, so all the people that hate me out there, which is like a growing list of people, I'm not claiming expertise, but this is what I've been thinking about, and I think it checks out well. I've been looking at some of the literature and talking to Chris Plants, fellow retrograde Chris Plants, about this. There, Feingold and Levering come up with this wet path of obediential potency. And I don't want to go all into what obediential potency is, but it's a kind of middle way that through obedience, through grace, we're kind of given the under-desire, the supernatural desire that undergirds the natural desire to be good and all that. I like that way. I mean, to me, that makes a lot of sense. But here's what I was thinking. Suffering, it's this simple. Human beings in sunshine happy days, as Archbishop Fulton Sheen would call them, in sunshine happy days, if we're being perfectly honest, I'm bringing this to you from a children's hospital. My daughter is 7 feet away in a bed recovering from a massive brain surgery. All right, so you could take my word on this one. On sunshine happy days, every human being, partly the way we're wired, the way nature plays with grace, is such that we're less tempted to be religionists. That's just a fact. Archbishop Fulton Sheen acknowledged it. People all who are being honest acknowledge it. It's through suffering that we're reminded, oh, who cares if I'm, really sticking to my workout routine or really becoming naturally virtuous. I'm going to die or a loved one's going to die. That's really where stuff gets real. I don't care if my business is thriving, right? If my kid's in the hospital. It's through suffering that we're brought back around to this adequation of desire and desire for God. I'm talking the supernatural end of human being, reuniting ourselves with God. And the capacity to get to God. Now, the capacity, this is why some people are tempted to say there got to be two ends. Because usually a function adequates a desire with a capacity, an ability to fulfill that desire, right? Which you can do with, and I encourage you all to, every day. This is what retrogrades are all about. Adequate your natural desire to achieve the virtues. Chastity, toughness and courage, holiness and religion, the virtue of religion, pray, you should want to get better. All of these are, in one sense, they're supernatural, but they're also just natural. But the desire to just be unified with God, once we're achieving natural happiness here, we have a good family, we built a good business, we're hard workers, we have good balance, we're temperate. On sunshine happy days, here's what I'm saying. We're tempted to say there's not really a natural desire for religion. It's suffering. It's the storm clouds, the days that are pockmarked by tears and strife and grief and the gnashing of teeth. That's when we are given a kind of, I don't want to say obediential potency, because that's a whole other thing, but it's a middle way in this question as to whether or not a human being has two ends. I think suffering, and I haven't checked this critically with like a bunch of dogmatic theologians, but I've thought about it over the last week since before Abby went into surgery. Suffering opens up the possibility of adequating that potency for desiring reunion with God in a way that's almost impossible when you're not suffering. I don't want to say it is impossible, because then like the great saints who do pray even on, their happiest day, which we should all strive to do. But we all, for being frank, we pray more frankly when we're at a cemetery or the hospital than when we're at Disneyland. I mean, I don't know what the response to this is going to be, but suffering plays a unique role in bridging the gap between viewing mankind's telos as natural happiness in the virtues and some good fortune, and supernatural happiness in reunification with God. It bridges that gap. It's when we see that you can't be perfectly happy just from being a good person alone. We're not Confucianists. We're not, this is not, Eastern philosophy. Well, this is not Buddhism, where you seek to diminish, to nullify, to abnegate all of your desire. That's perverse. It's actually evil. It's a privation. No, we are Roman Catholics. Our desires, rightly ordered, are good. But again, the problem is that it seems, and I'm not claiming a theologian's aegis when I say this, it seems strongly like our happy days, our Disneyland days, those are the days that it's most damned likely that you're going to forget to say your prayers before the meals and whatever your special devotions are. If you do a daily rosary, if you do the Angelus, if you pray the hours, from the Reformed Breviary, if you have a special novena, you're saying the day you go to Disneyland, if that's tomorrow, that's the day you're going to be, and you're having a good day and a good time, you're going to be far more likely to miss that devotional on that day than on today. I have days I miss my rosary. I never miss it when Abby's in the hospital. This is what I'm talking about. And so that opens up a kind of new obediential potency. I think I'm misusing the term slightly, but that creates a condition for the possibility of desiring God that was there before but was not prominent. Suffering does that. Suffering bridges the gap. If, I'm not sure he was right, but this seems to be one of the things, one of the few things I think de Lubac might have been right about is it's a really squishy issue whether or not human beings have one end or two ends. I am a expert on Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, and a very heavily related question that I brought to mentor professor at Steubenville, my brother Dave and I were disagreeing about, is whether or not one can even perfectly achieve the natural virtues without the supernatural virtues. Very close question to what we're talking about here. Can you adequate the desires for God, which all of its virtue, all of its arete at the end of the day that enables us to get to God? Even if we're not talking the natural virtues, that would be that would essentially be trying to build a stairway to heaven. But the supernatural virtues, when you include religion, faith, hope, and love, these religious virtues, these get you to God together with the sacraments and really the grace. How does grace play upon our human nature? I'm not saying it's impossible. Someone's going to call me a heretic or something like that. These are ruminations from the hospital, and I've been reading some of the literature, and I'm thinking that a hidden key that other people missed is suffering. This is maybe the logical outgrowth of our first parents falling from grace through sin was suffering, sickness, death. Yes, I get that. That had to happen because God's justice outlasts his mercy. But maybe a eucatastrophic role of suffering is it makes it either a bimodal distribution of one telos of human beings, morality which gets us to God, or excellences which get us to God in the religious sense, or maybe kind of two moments of teloses. First, become naturally good, then you become supernaturally good by reunification with God. And in the psychology of man, suffering, to me, I maybe I'm just missing something obvious, but it seems like it supplies an activation energy for hitting the knees. Knee pads or not, for hitting the knees and saying, I don't care that I've been praying for 45 minutes on my knees and I'm going to have a backache later from it, or a knee ache. I need religion. I need unification with God. Even though I'm thriving in the rest of my life, I'm not thriving here, and this is something only God can do. Makes it prominent. I can tell you that these are, so I mean, I'm not trying to, well, maybe I am. I'm not trying to, I was going to say I'm not trying to spin gold from wheat or whatever. But I mean, maybe this is just naturally what I was thinking about. I think the day or two before Abby went into the hospital, and it happened to be, suffering plays this unique role, and I can deepen and maybe also broaden the notions that I spun back in January from, I wasn't actually at the hospital there. I was at the hotel near the hospital. Now, again, we're just chilling in this RV park a mile away and making the best. And it's a weird time for all of us to live and love and suffer. Dostoevsky wrote, "For in the minds too, one can live and love and suffer." One of my favorite quotes of all time. It's when Dmitri is talking about, here I go on the Dostoevskian path to relieving suffering. Dostoevsky's talking about Dmitri, the main character, who takes the fall for the murder of Fyodor, their father, and he's saying, "Hey, I'll serve my time, and maybe there I can meet another soul who's not a complete scumbag. Maybe there in the mines, wherever he's working, Siberia, hard labor, I can meet another soul. For in the mines too, we can live and love and suffer." I would add only this with my little foray into the dogmatic theology that I've never looked at super seriously aside from recently. Maybe especially in the mines, especially in the children's hospital here. This is my review. Actually, it's a little better than that. Especially here, maybe one can live and love and suffer. I mean, I hate the philosophy of Martin Heidegger, Nazi philosopher, but one thing he said that's definitely true is man is most authenticated. He lives his deepest, most authentic moment when he confronts death. Okay, well, happy Easter. God bless you. Get to church if you can, legally or illegally. I don't know if I'll be able to. I doubt it. But if you have some place where you can get to church, do so. Do so. And thank you all for your prayers. Please continue praying for Abby, especially on Monday. Weird times are ours. You know, it's a Chinese curse. Interesting days are ours. And I don't know what to think. I gave you some of my thoughts. I'm grateful that Abby's doing well. Super grateful. She was having a headache a little bit ago. We gave her some meds, so she's okay. So I'll turn you around. But I don't know what to think about the big picture. Stay close to our Lord. Stay close to His mother. You know, say your daily devotionals and wait this thing out, but not too passively. And you're going to see me doing a lot of videos next week and the week after that. Okay? God bless you guys.